All right, we're back. This is the Big G's AI podcast. Today we are remote because Crafted decided to move to a new office. So our studio is down right now. But here I am always with my boys, Brandon and Jacob. What's up, dudes?
What's up, man? Howdy. Howdy.
I'm getting kind of used to this podcast setup because I need to look at the camera a little bit, right? But I'm like, you guys are down here. Like, what do I do with my hands? I'm not sure here. So
I'm just going to readjust while we're on air here. Okay.
I'm actually in the new office. Jacob's in the office next to me. We moved down Mass Ave a little bit. So we moved to a new office. It's no longer in a yogurt shop anymore. And, we have some more space. And we actually have a dedicated podcast studio room that we're building in the new office, which Brandon doesn't know about yet. So we're excited.
So what's the plan there?
You'll see, man. You'll see next week. It's going to be different. I think it'll be a little better, and it'll be permanent, so we don't have to spend so much time getting set up every week.
How's the move been for you guys?
It's been good. It's been we moved all our stuff over, and now we're getting painting done. But we found that we can reuse most of the stuff from our old office. So
that's nice. Real quick, Jacob, though, are you finding that it's screwing up any of the work that you guys like? Is it screwing up any of the mojo as you guys are trying to transition from the old space to the new space?
Yeah, I'm completely thrown off. I'm the type of person that needs to have everything in its right place at all times. So, yeah, I'm very thrown off right now, but it's getting better. Anyways, hey, check it out. So we've got quite a few topics today. It's been kind of a weird week for AI, maybe like the slowest week in AI in some ways.
with only like 100 news articles coming out,
right?
The slowest week of it. It literally is all like just absolute. It's almost impossible to kind of keep track of everything. We'll go through this week and we'll send each other all these links. We'll post them up onto Slack or whatever. And then at the end of the week, we're like, oh my God, there's 15 other things that we didn't even cover. I mean, it's crazy, dude.
Yeah, it is. It's like, it's either like, there's a $1 trillion economic impact event with DeepSeek or something in the last couple of weeks. But now it's more like the aftermath, and people are trying to catch up. People are trying to do some things. But we're going to kick it off today with Jacob's favorite company, Google, and the Gemini 2.0 release that no one seemed to even care about. Google also released their earnings and didn't seem like the market cared about it either. But let's just talk a little bit about it. And Brandon, why don't you kick it off? Just get it started with it, because it is quite a big announcement that happened this week.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
In terms of these big drops these companies have been doing.
Right. So it is. It's funny because Gemini 2.0 Flash is coming out, and the whole model for this one's supposed to be, again, huge context, super fast, super cheap. And so it can literally do all 7 Harry Potter books in one prompt. Right. So it could take a ginormous PDF and it can process that, and it could then do like the needle in the haystack and be able to find content, be able to actually understand it and kind of interact with it. So it is actually huge that it can process this much information. Now, I don't have access to it, so I just went, once I saw, once this kind of was announced, I went to look at my Gemini, and I don't have access to the 2.0 yet. So it will be interesting to see, but it seems like they might have just been like, oh, we got to announce this. We got to say, here's all the things it does. Here's what the price point is, basically because DeepSeek pretty much just sucked up all of the attention over the last, 3 weeks in the LLM space. But Google's whole their whole downplay of the DeepSeek was basically like, well, it's obvious that models are going to get cheaper, of course, so here's ours now, of course, yeah, duh. So it's interesting. I haven't played with it, but I do think that, again, we're just going to start seeing that we're going to get models that are going to get faster, cheaper, and to do more, and intelligence seems to be going to zero, is kind of what it seems like.
Yeah, I don't know. Jacob, do you have any thoughts on the Gemini 2.0?
I mean, I've had it for a little while now. You losers need to pay the premium. It's great. I mean, all these models
what do you use it for?
Well, first of all, I use the deep research quite a bit for like, hey, I want to explore this topic and get me started, and if I'm trying to write something or learn a in-depth topic. But the 2.0 Flash is like, it is fast as hell, and I oftentimes just use it honestly as like a benchmark of like against other models. So I'll do the same task in ChatGPT as I do in Flash, and it's always faster. But there's also some new models with the OpenAI that are available too, so we can talk about those if you want. which I'm, me, I'd rather keep talking about Google so my stock goes up.
So when you're doing the comparisons with Flash and some of the other models, what were you seeing? Were you seeing is it a better reasoning? Is there?
What's up, Sean?
Joe was just saying hi from the other office.
I thought you were like raising your hand to speak because I was like,
No,
okay.
Sorry for interrupting.
No, you're good. I don't know, man. I feel like Google's are always faster for sure, and I think like it's better at structured data, but honestly, they're all like getting pretty damn good, right? They still have like the same problem as always. If you give it a general problem, it'll give you a really generic response that's kind of shitty. So with all of them, I'm finding the more context, the better, which I think we've been talking about that for a while, but I guess I'm just mostly impressed with how fast it is.
Are you guys using it or are you using it in any other capacity other than directly through either the Gemini website or through God? Like, are you using it in Cursor or are you using it in any other capacity?
No, I'm still rocking a Claude and Cursor, Sonnet 3.5.
I'd be curious to see. Yeah, I'd be curious to see how it would work with how well
is
it
it
would do.
Is it even an option? Let me pull up Cursor real quick. Since we got our computers.
I thought 1.5 is.
Is it?
I thought.
Hey, have you guys? Is there?
No, they do.
Dedicated,
Gemini 2. Sorry, Gemini 2.0 Flash thinking experience is there, in Cursor. Sorry, Sean.
Is there a dedicated app? It seems like there's a dedicated iPhone app for Gemini.
Yeah, I just got it yesterday. Actually, for some reason, I never had it.
Here's an interesting stat, and I'd love for anyone to fact check this, but according to demandsage.com, Google Gemini gets 275 monthly visits, 275 million monthly visits. And each Bard search query costs up to 0.006 cents to 0.3 cents for per query. Do that math.
So are they saying that number every time that I do a search that Gemini gives me a search an AI response, does that count?
Yeah. I mean, think about it. If it costs
then that wouldn't be that impressive. Like
no.
that number is not impressive at all. If that's the case.
No, and it said under 1 million people have downloaded they have not hit 1 million downloads a month on this app, but they're getting about 600,000, 500, 600,000. But it's just interesting to talk about Gemini because, you'd think that like for example, Apple had their earnings this week and ChatGPT actually drove a lot of their services revenue because one of the smart things that Apple did was they're like, build AI all you want. We're going to get 30%. They didn't give them a cut. They're getting 30% of ChatGPT's app revenue. You just don't hear a lot about Gemini, the user growth and the actual adoption of Gemini. It seems like this thing that Google's trying to force feed down people's throats, but it also seems like it's a competitive product. So it's like, It's one of those things where it's like everyone uses Google every day. You would think that people would feed saying Gemini. Is it, to question, do you think it's just literally brand awareness and brand power at its finest with ChatGPT? Or do you think there's something, behind the curtains that we're not looking at? Like, does Google...
I think it's both, right? So there's definitely the brand awareness that you have with ChatGPT, that people just assume the AI is ChatGPT. The majority of the normies have no idea who Anthropic or Claude is, right, that are out there. ChatGPT is AI, and Google, like Gemini, doesn't even exist, other than they might have some sort of recognition that AI happens now when I do a search and I get this weird loading animation thing that goes and it dumps out some stuff sometimes. So I think there's definitely a brand issue, but then there's just also that I wouldn't be surprised if people are necessarily not the most trustworthy of Google in terms of being their AI provider.
Well, like, for example, so I use Cursor every day. That's probably the way I interact with AI the most. So that's with just coding, and that's embedded into the code, the IDE I use. I mean, Gemini, none of Gemini's models are even a default option on that for coding.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question, Brandon. Do you have the most up-to-date Cursor?
Yeah.
Okay, I need to update mine because I don't see Gemini's models even available to me.
No, they're not.
Well, so if you go and
select it, but they're not in the default. here.
They're not in the default, so it's very possible that, but what's weird, though, is I never went in and enabled Gemini 2.0 Flash thinking, right? Like, I know that for a fact because that's brand new. And so I just went to my option. I've got o3 Mini now. I have Gemini 2.0 Flash thinking. I have Gemini Experience 1206. Look, we can share screens?
Yeah, so here are the models that you can install with Cursor.
Hell
So you
yeah.
have Claude, you have I did not edit this, except for I did select Claude 3.5 Sonnet, the one with lots of numbers on it. That's the one I use.
All right. Right.
But Gemini DeepSeek is right there.
Yep.
But Gemini's there, but they don't even. I'm wondering why would that not be a default option? I don't know, but it just seems like
It's got to be a cost thing from Cruiser's standpoint, right? They're obviously eating all of the cost of this inference. So I'm paying them $22 a month. You're paying them $22 a month. If we all go and start using o3 Mini, right? Maybe o3 Mini not, because I think o3 Mini is actually very affordable. But, anytime that you have any model that would be a higher price, they're not going to necessarily want to have everybody just sitting there selecting that. So, my guess is that they probably are continually trying to adjust, which models people are using, trying to perfect their own models to eventually not have to basically be able to pay the tax of using these different models. I don't know. It's fascinating. I will say, though, dude, Claude 3.5 and OpenAI for the last 3-4 days have just been stupid as hell. In Cursor, it's been ridiculous. Like the amount of arguments that I've had with Claude over the last 3 days is elevated more so than just like me losing my marbles. Like it seems like it's really bad right now. And you saw it, Sean, when we were doing that GPT I generated to generate like the show notes for our things. Like, there's misspellings throughout the whole friggin' thing. It's just crazy. Like, I don't know what the hell's going on right now.
Dude, yesterday I tried to build what I thought was a pretty straightforward project. So, like, all I wanted to do was I said, I want you to use JavaScript and Node to go to this web page. Here's my login credentials, log in, and then I want to scrape this page. That's not that complicated. And I spent like 30 minutes arguing with it because I kept getting some Puppeteer error. And like, I know we've struggled with Puppeteer in the past, like with different, I've got an M2 or whatever, and there's definitely some issues with that, but it wouldn't try anything different after I threw it the error. I was like, here's the problem, fix it. And it just kept telling me the same thing. And I was like, okay, this is useless. Might as well go watch a tutorial and actually do it myself.
Well,
write this myself.
So the Gemini mystery continues. They obviously have what they call reasoning. I'm still not using it. The stock market's not responding to anything they're doing, but I do think that for those that are use Google products, it's still a really good option. They're keeping up. They're spending $75 billion, but now instead of the market responding when you say you're going to spend $75 billion on AI, they're not going, oh, great. They're going, ooh, do you need to spend that much? Maybe that's actually not a good use of funds. But with that said, let's move on to something that happened this week that I think impressed one of the most impressive people. I'm going to throw this on you. I'm going to share my screen right now. We've got Dharmesh, the CTO and founder of, I don't know if he's the CTO anymore, of HubSpot. And he was talking about the OpenAI new deep research feature. So I think we're going to move on to that real quick. First of all, has anyone used the OpenAI's new deep research feature?
It is not available to me as a poultry. I only pay $20 a month.
Yes,
I gotta pay $200.
Altman's really research-based idea of how to charge for their pro account. So with OpenAI's and ChatGPT's pro account, you pay $200 a month and you get access to more stuff. One of those things is their deep
unlimited Sora too, apparently.
Which is
unlimited Sora, which might not be that bad. Like he just did a tweet. Sorry to sideline us here. I do that, but he just did a tweet where Sam was like, originally we thought that some people would do the deep research for $200 a month, but then we give you unlimited the O3, we give you unlimited Sora, we give you this and this and that. It ultimately ends up turning out to be a fairly good deal. And he's not necessarily wrong. If really the Sora stuff could start producing some like long format and like what the Pika, we didn't even talk about that, which we probably should, is Pika.art's new one. If they can do 1080p and like 15, 30 second long videos, that becomes really not a bad price point. if I can just generate, continually from, for $200 a month.
So basically, this guy who's really well respected said that this feature is a game changer for him. Disclosure at the very end, he's an investor in OpenAI, but I thought that there was a lot of discussion that kicked off on the internet about like these soft skill consulting type jobs, and how they're irrelevant based off the fact that you can create truly in-depth research. My question is, where does it go from when it's I'm just asking 4.0 for answers about something to actual research? Like what defines that? How does it cross the line there? Is it going out and trying to collect new information? What you know what I mean? What is actually happening there that qualifies this as research?
Yeah, I know that Google's deep research goes out and it'll search like 50 or 100 actual web pages and collect all that information, and then distill or give you whatever the question you're asking, try to answer it from that information plus the model, I think. I'm assuming OpenAI's model is working the same, but Brandon, you might have some other thoughts on that.
No, I would assume the same thing, basically. Now, again, though, the fact that, Flash can sit there and consume, or Gemini Flash can consume, 20,000 page PDFs. I mean, I would be more inclined to trust, a deep research coming from Google than I would potentially OpenAI, right? Like they're really going for being able to consume just a crazy amount of information in one shot. And I think that's the right approach, because that's where we ultimately need to get. Like I can just build something, throw in a ginormous document, and then ask anything about it. That seems to be the most relevant. But yeah, I don't know. I haven't used either of them.
No, it says.
I mean, I use o01 and I use o03 for like doing some deep reasoning and like trying to do, but I haven't done anything in terms of like that deep research. Apparently, OpenAI also offers one, like if you're willing to wait 24 hours, you can do batch. Did you guys even know this? You can do like batch processing, and that then it'll just return it like 24 hours later when it's done, and like super cheap. I don't know if the reasoning is available on that model too.
You think they're just sending that to someone overseas, and they're like, "Hey, what was that one? What was that one company that did that? I actually worked for it. Like you'd ask it, Cha-Cha. It's
Cha-Cha.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
You worked at Cha-Cha?
I mean, no, I didn't work at Cha-Cha. I did like I was an answerer of questions.
Okay.
So
Right.
I would Google shit for people.
So I interviewed at Cha-Cha, and this was the first time that I met Doug Rao. If you guys don't know Doug at Profile Tracker, Doug and I go way back now, and that was when I interviewed there. I got into an argument with I was coming on as a potential UX role, and I got into an argument with the developers on how you should actually be building it. And the whole interview just went to a fucking argument. And then at the end, Doug was like, dude, what the fuck? And I'm like, sorry. That's when he realized I'm the most unhireable person in Indiana. And he's just like,
There's no
this
doubt.
is ridiculous,
I
dude.
would never, I don't hire this guy. So according to OpenAI, how it works is somewhat vague, but it says deep research was trained using end-to-end reinforcement learning on hard browsing and reasoning tasks across a range of domains. Through that training, it learned to plan and execute a multi-step trajectory to find the data it needs, backtracking and reacting to real-time information where necessary. The model is also able to browse over user-uploaded files, plot and iterate graphs using the Python tool, embed both generated graphs and images from websites in its responses, and cite specific sentences or patches from its sources. So it sounds like it's a mix between its browsing functionality, additional model training, and the Python library that they've been using that basically makes pretty graphs and turns them into PDF-able content. And I think that is part of ChatGPT and all these interfaces is the ability not just to return chat-based responses, but to actually take data, visualize it, and do certain things with it that's just beyond, giving you some text. So
that reminds me. The other day I asked a question, and like it was some math question, and it went and like actually did the Python inline, and I forget what it was, but I was pretty impressed. Like, to your point, Sean, like these things are getting more powerful. You used to ask it like, what's 2 + 2? And it just have no fucking idea how to respond to that. And now it's like, well, I know how to write a function, and well, that's a simple example, but it knows how to do math using Python now. And it'll just show you the formula. And I'm like, cool. It was some like profit calculation function that I wanted to do over time. I was like, damn, that was pretty sick. But I mean, I'm impressed with the continued improvement of like inline tooling and features outside of just chat.
I want to share another tweet since we're doing. I like this screen sharing thing. As the host, I get to do
Yeah, I
things
did
and
too.
throw.
It's great.
So I've got another tweet that I want you guys to react to. So this was one that I loved. So I've been posting every time anybody posts about OpenAI lately. I've been just shitting on them because of what Altman did and how much pull this guy has. And so this is from an engineer at X, and it says, and it's from February 2nd. So that's 1 bajillion years ago, February 2nd. Today's February 6th. So it got 1 million views. And it's an engineer at X, which is Twitter. For those that actually, I don't call it X. Please don't do that. My dad calls it that. It kills me. But he says, I think it's a she. I don't know who it is. Do not invest in OpenAI. Do not sign any agreements with them. Do not do any business with them. I've been busy all weekend and just got plugged in. I've seen enough things across 4chan, my X feed, and my own experiments that confirm it's over. There is no moat. I agree.
So yeah, okay.
The model is not the moat.
So the model is not the moat. However, as we've talked 1,000 times over and over and over again, you're not raw dogging the model anymore with OpenAI, right? There's an entire application layer that sits on top, and they want $1 trillion fucking dollars to basically make it so they could continue to take on more and more and more. Like if you've actually tried to use DeepSeek at any level, right? Like you'll see that it's hard to keep that shit up and running where they're like, oh, sorry, we're at capacity. Oh, sorry, we're at capacity. Like it's hard to make these things kind of keep running and doing it. So they need all this money to kind of do it. But there's a whole application level layer that I think that's where the battle is really going to go.
That's where the battle's won.
Like that person's sitting there with Grok, sitting there being like,
with
hey,
Grok.
Couple
Nazi
things. Poems, and
couple
Grok
things
will
on
do
that.
it for you.
One thing is this person may or may not understand game theory, right? Which is the first mover advantage, right? There is a huge value in their ginormous user base. We're sitting here trying to figure out why people don't use Gemini, and it's embedded in Google products. Another thing is I think there's a lot of press and attention that gets put to the models, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's exclusively where the company's focus is. That's where the attention goes to is, the model, the accuracy of the model, the new model, this. But I agree that there isn't a moat in the model because, you're seeing people just steal these things and retrain them on and just basically siphon all the work and just layer on top of it and release it as their own. But I think that it's a really important consideration. And I think that it just points to the fact that how much longer are we going to be focusing on the models themselves and really moving on to more applications of it, which brings me to my real something that Brandon brought up that I thought it really could create a moat, which is OpenAI's filing for these trademarks. So I don't know that this was this week, but they're going out, and one thing is that they did, and it was something that you kind of haven't heard much about, but Johnny Ive. So for those that don't know Johnny Ive was Steve Jobs' designer for 20 years, or I don't even know how long.
He's a sir. I mean, like the dude is literally like one of the best industrial designers that we have had in the last 30, 40 years.
Yeah, and he quit Apple and he started an agency called Love From. And it's it's probably a small agency that's already doing $100 million a year in revenue, whatever. But they contracted with OpenAI. And so one of the things that OpenAI has in their pocket is this guy, right? And so what you're going to see, I think, and potentially, and that's what Altman and they're trying to do. They're trying to get out ahead of all this stuff because they're asking for billions and billions and billions of dollars and they're losing billions of dollars. But I think it's an interesting thing that we are totally short, that I'm totally like counting out, is the fact that this guy's in their corner and they're going to start coming out with products. They're going to start coming out with more. So you're talking about brand power. If you're a brand person, right, you're sitting there tooting your own horn going, look at these guys. They've got product that's not any better than this or that or something from another really powerful brand. And they're bringing in even more brand power and even more product power. So now the pendulum swings back the other way. Is OpenAI going to dominate because of all this stuff, right? First mover advantage, product design, user base, and so we sit there and crap on them because they went and asked, the Saudis for 500 billion and they want to control these data center build outs, but maybe there's other things going on that and now we start to shortchange Altman a little bit.
Right. So some of the key things that they call out during these for the trademarks are headphones, goggles, glasses, laptops, mobile cases, smartphones, smart jewelry, VR headsets. Right. So like they're just spreading across the entire spectrum of potential products where you would be interacting with AI. So if they can kind of take that position now and be like, we're going to be that next hardware play, because again, we all have to admit that Apple hasn't created anything new since Steve Jobs died, right? It's all just been plays off of what they've currently done. Again, no props to Cook for turning it into an $18 trillion company or whatever the hell it is right now, right? Like he made it mad, but the creativity is gone, and and Jobs is gone. And now Jobs is over here kind of working on like what's going to be the next human interaction of technology with AI. It could be their moat. I mean, again, what everybody likes to say that Apple just waits and then copies what other companies do, right? What people don't really realize and think about is that Apple created the entire fucking iPhone market. They created the phone market. They created all the design. They created the design patterns. They created the physical hardware. They created everything that everybody copied from. And that was all frigging Ives. The guy's a genius. And now he has the ability to kind of take it and to reimagine what this actually looks like in today's age with AI backing everything. I do not bet against Johnny. That's it.
I don't either. And I do think if there's any sign of a product that could have the ability to compete with an Android device or even an iPhone, I mean, you're talking about, years and years and years of expert engineering that goes into an iPhone. You can never discount that. However, if you move on from the user interface as the interface of choice, right? And you move to a voice-based interface, right? The first place you need to look is OpenAI's app on iPhone.
Right.
I mean,
right.
It blows Siri out of the water. And in a world where, they don't even have to service. One of the problems with tech companies is that they have to service all the things that they already have. Like Apple can't come out with a screenless phone, right? Or a audio only, you know what I mean? It almost doesn't even incentivize them, right? Because what's going to happen? Well, their services revenue could get cannibalized through in-app purchases. The way that they don't want to they're de-incentivized to fundamentally change how people use computing devices because they're pushing out billions and billions and billions of iPhones every year. If OpenAI is to have an advantage moving forward, I would put it more in the hardware side, the robotics,
Right.
the interfacing, not necessarily the models, the applications. And maybe we're thinking about it wrong when we talk about, the applications of the models being like create agents and, integrate software platforms together. Maybe their competitive advantages may be creating a more general computing device that utilizes their large model.
Are you guys using any of the OpenAI tasks thing yet? Have you set any of those up?
No, I haven't.
No, I set a birthday reminder for my mom after I deleted Facebook.
So that's actually an app that I'm considering building, by the way, which we'll sideline that. But so I set one up, which was just basically, I want you to find something that is a horrible design, a horrible user experience, bubble it up, and then every day send me an email that basically says, hey, this design experience sucks. We need to have a better experience for it. And I just set it up just kind of playing around to see what would happen. And it's actually awesome. Like every morning now I get an email and it's like, hey, gas station pumps UI is awful. And here's how you can try to think through it. Right. And so like every morning I wake up and I go through this design thinking process where I'm like, yeah, how would I solve that problem?
That's a great way to get the dopamine going for an ADHD.
Totally,
like
dude. It's amazing. It's so fucking awesome. I'm loving it. So that is a really cool feature I am liking that I didn't think I would.
Yeah, I guess I never thought I would be so angry at a gas station pump. I feel like, you know, like the Apple Pay doesn't work half the time. Like sometimes the
Yep.
card reader doesn't work. I have to go inside and I'm like, do I pay you? Do I just steal the gas? What do I do here?
Or
So you
doors.
mentioned
So
that it
so
can
I just
email you.
sorry.
How does it email you?
So every time it runs, I think that's just how it does it. That's how it notifies you is that it ran, is that it just emails you. And then it's like, hey, here's what it is. And you click that link. Now, what's interesting is it takes you back to that same chat that you had previously. So when you create it, you actually select the model is going to be 4.0 with tasks or something like that, right? And you select that model and then you say, hey, I want to have every morning an email that basically does, or I want to have every morning a report that does this. And then it's like, all right, I'm going to email you. And so it just basically says, hey, this has been generated. It gives you a tight little title. You click that, it takes you back to the chat. And so now my chat just is like, keeps getting longer and longer and longer. But yeah, so I don't know, like long term, like what happens after, 3, 4, 5, 10 years of this? Like, is this
Yeah.
chat going to just, blow up or whatever?
Dude,
But it's a cool feature.
I would love, so to your point earlier, Sean, about reminders. So I sent out a save the date for an engagement or for my wedding. And basically the app I put it into to collect everybody's information is cool because it's like trying to get me to buy more product through them. So sending more cards and all that. So it'll be like, hey, Brandon's birthday is coming up in 2 weeks. Do you want to send him a card? Right? Well, I already have everybody's birthday in Facebook, right? Or in whatever, my phone. Or what if I could, what if there was a device that I could be like, hey, go look at my Facebook, scrape everybody's birthday that I have in my phone that I've actually contacted in the last 2 years. Yeah, so like, these are the things that are more useful to me. Like Facebook's great for, like it has all my repository of information, but I don't want to go there every day. And also, am I going to be like looking 3 weeks out of like who's coming up? Like,
Dude, this is it. This is what you should have. Like, if you
Jacob,
would have waited just like 2
you just
weeks.
said it, and Apple just went and built it.
oh, no shit. This
Yes,
was
dude.
on the 4th?
Yeah, so 2 days
Yes.
ago, this actually popped their stock. I was watching it. So Apple Invites came out.
Which is wild. It's a fucking application, dude. It's an app. They built an app. And it pumped their stock.
So I think it's actually I mean, this is one of the things that Apple's doing. And I think that this is where Cook is smart, which is, you know what? We have this ecosystem and no one can keep up with us. Just keep ripping industries and throwing them into our ecosystem. Now, is there a threat to that? Yes, if people stop using iPhones. But like, you look at what they're doing from a health perspective, right? I mean, if I'm Eventbrite or any sort of, you're done.
Oh, yeah, you're shitting your pants.
You're done. You're done, because what Jacob just literally described a lot of the problems something like this would solve, like your people. You know what I mean? Like, think if you sent out, like, you know what I mean? Like, just think about all the things that this integrates into your life, and they just drop the app.
And you talk about moat, dude. Like, I would never fucking leave Apple if I had all these like reminders and what eventually needs to happen is the context. I need to be able to say, hey, whatever, your name. My anniversary is coming up in 2 weeks, and last year I did this. Set me a reminder to make sure, or whatever the reminder. Yeah, I know you can do some of those things now, but like more context and conversational stuff like that, where it's like, hey, you might think about booking a hotel as well, or whatever,
By the way, they snuck in something that I thought was really interesting, which is iCloud Plus. So iCloud Plus Premium pre-features that they released they're really, I don't know if you guys have been watching TV the last couple of days, but there's tons of Apple security email. They are doing a huge marketing campaign around privacy. That is happening. I mean, every commercial that they're dropping right now has to do with privacy, and there's a huge Safari push, and I don't quite know why they're doing it, but it has something to do with, I think, trying to get people to use iCloud Premium. So, like, for example, you can, they just released all these new features, but they expanded their family sharing. You can do custom email domains now. You can review, if you're using HomeKit, you can review your footage from your house, like for in a totally encrypted end-to-end thing. But like, hide my email, you can generate random unique email addresses whenever you need to use them. And then this private relay thing. is what they've been talking about even on their commercials. So I don't know what this is all about, but it just seems like they're seeing the fact that their services business is growing so much and they're just leaning into it. And maybe it's a reflection of the fact that they realize that there's only so far they can go with the hardware iterations now, like from a growth perspective, and they're trying to move the needle. But, I don't mind a company, I don't need my iPhone to be that much faster. Let's be honest. I don't need the camera to be any better. Do I want the ecosystem to be healthier? Do I want Swift to be better from a developer experience? Do I want the core Apple apps to be better? So it's kind of an interesting dynamic where Apple's like at the peak of their technology prowess and their ability to build awesome products, and then you have, kind of going back to the punchline is it going to end up all for naught because somebody like OpenAI is going to work with Johnny Ive and build a screenless, deviceless, I think you might be muted, Brandon.
Here we go. All right, I'm back. Sorry. So here's one thing that's kind of interesting about the and I've said this for a long time, the best user interface is no user interface, right? As something we've just said for a long friggin' time, that if there needs to be a user interface, if you can figure out a way to get rid of the user interface and still solidify and still deliver the solution, then that's awesome. I think though that when we come to this product standpoint, it's going to be a very interesting. We had the Humane Pen, right, which was trying to be like this kind of like no UI thing. We had the Rabbit R1. Now again, those would all have been the old flip phones of the yesteryear, where Apple was sitting around being like, these things are dog shit. We need to make a better phone, right? That's what's happening there. So again, I can't even pretend to think of like what this might be, but with Ives, you just hope. Then again, he did come up with the hockey puck, the mouse hockey puck, if you guys have ever used that. And that was a horrible product. So he isn't God. He does have bad production that he does do.
He's a minimalist.
However,
he's a minimalist.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I've said it before, but I'll reiterate. I think that wearables are the next generation of like things, like, because we want data on ourselves. We want to be able to be like, so I have a Whoop. I'm a huge advocate of like, I can test how, if I drank yesterday, how shitty do I feel today,
right,
or whatever. No, but like, I think like capturing video, capturing like your day and what's going on is a huge opportunity. And maybe Apple doesn't make every single one of those, or OpenAI doesn't make every single one of those, but there's got to be a common language. That's why Android and iOS is like really the bedrock. Like they're gonna own all that space, and you're gonna interface with them, right? Like my Whoop sends heartbeat data to my iPhone, right? So
right.
Did you guys see the speaking of third-party peripherals for that integrate with that? Because Whoop do they integrate with the Health Kit? Is there some sort of actual Apple? Okay.
Yeah.
So they allowed that product to integrate into what they do.
Right.
Okay. Well, Zuckerberg.
Well, Apple just opens that up. Health Kit, you can just integrate Health Kit right into your API.
Well, yeah. Zuckerberg was on Rogan complaining about Apple. I don't know if you saw the whole thing. But one of the things he talked about was how all they do is squeeze people and that they haven't innovated. And they kind of echoed what Brandon said, which I don't totally agree with, but I can understand where they're coming from. But it's kind of the pot calling the kettle black with Meta, in my opinion.
What the hell has Zuckerberg built in the last 5 years?
The metaverse that they're literally their CFO or whatever is like, we're gonna have to like shut this down at some point. But he was talking about AirPods, and he was just hitting on AirPods. Did you see this? He basically was like, this AirPods are a perfect example. So the AirPods, you put them in your ear and they connect. It's integrated. It's unlike any Bluetooth experience that you'd ever have. And they built their own protocol. So there's this sub protocol that AirPods uses that they don't allow any other company to leverage. So there's a protocol for AirPods, and Meta went to Apple and was like, hey, can we use this protocol for our devices? Because we'd like to have a better experience for iPhone. And they were like, no, you can't. Well, Zuckerberg spent a couple minutes talking about how dog shit the protocol was, how it wasn't secure, how it was like not even encrypted, and was like, this is just a bad product, and the only reason why it's any good or people use it is because Apple won't it's exclusive, and they're doing monopolistic tactics. And it's kind of interesting how big of a moat, Apple has with that kind of stuff. But I don't necessarily think that what he was talking about was true, because you have things like HealthKit that are allowing people to build third-party devices that integrate and all that. And maybe the AirPods was just like, a side project.
So Apple has innovated. There's no question. Apple has innovated, but Apple's innovation are all still built off of the backs of what was created 10 years ago, right? There has, now Vision Pro, you could make an argument that was like a truly kind of truly revolutionary kind of, right? Like we knew that was a direction that was going, but it wasn't a successful product. When we, if you think back to early 2000s, man, we had the iPhone, we had the iPod, we had the iPad, like you had the Mac Mini, the Bondi Blue Mac Mini, right? Like all the way from the beginning of when Jobs came back, and it was just transformational. And it was just like year over year over year of just transformation. And now we're just what kind of software can we build on top of it? We're going to build an invites app. That's the fucking innovation? Is it? I mean, again, no problem. The invite app is cool. However, you have to be an iOS user to be able to create the invites. You can accept the invites and be participant if you're on an Android, but don't pretend for a second that you're creating a fucking invite if you're on an Android, buddy. Only people who are having parties are on iPhones.
Hey,
anyway.
Android people aren't real humans. They're actually they're a lower class of human.
Birds aren't real. The Android people aren't real. Like they're all fucking NPCs.
Speaking of the Big Cheese AI stock portfolio, we have an absolute rip-roaring stock announcement today. Palantir hit $108 a share today.
Who's invested in it?
Sean.
Sean is? Oh, Sean's the only one.
Come on, baby. I told you guys to buy it at 75.
I know. Well, did you tell us to buy it at 75?
I did. Actually, I might have just said I did.
I need to start. I'll start listening to you this time.
Yeah, you need to.
That's, I'm in on Cloudflare. They're up a little bit over the last couple of months here. They're up 56% the last 3 months. But I am a huge user of their products.
Hey, speaking of this, this will be a good conversation for AI, is that you and I talked about Cloudflare tunnels, and you're like, yeah, it's simple. You just do this, and this, right? And I'm like, all right, fucking Cloudflare tunnels. So I decided to have AI do my Cloudflare tunnel, and motherfucker, I went through 2 days of screaming at AI to get it, and eventually I was like, I'm done. I'm not going to have AI do this because you're stupid as shit. You obviously can't figure this out. And I was able to do it myself in about 15 minutes.
Well, here's the problem. I think, and I already know what your problem was. How long has Cloudflare Tunnels been out?
Doesn't matter. That's my point. That's my whole argument.
But I have the same problem right now, which is technology.
Yeah.
Okay, here's a conundrum. Okay, AI scrapes the world's internet. AI creates model. Model creates. People interact with model. Model updates. New model comes out. Okay, real-time web scraping and all this research stuff, expensive, right?
Yeah.
And so but what does AI also do? It accelerates development. And what do you need when you come out with development products like Expo, Vercel, Cloudflare tunnels? You need documentation. You also need people to stop the usage of the product so that there can be Reddit posts and there can be things consumed on the internet that get sucked in by the models. And so there's this latency that's happening with newer technology that's coming out where I'm going and I'm asking questions about, I'm like, hey, build this. And the AI is like, I don't know anything about what you're talking about. I'm not necessarily as fully up to date on this.
It's worse. It's worse than that. It'll go build it wrong. But it doesn't even tell you it doesn't know shit. It's like, here you go. Here's this thing that's definitely not going to work, but looks okay.
Yeah, and so I think that there's got to be and maybe there's a way to do this, but like it would be great if Cursor or other platforms that are where you're doing generative AI, you could say, hey, I want you to use this model, but I need you to actually like fully suck in the entire documentation set as well.
It exists. It's your Cursor rules file, right? So .cursor rules. Now you can actually search for .cursor rules files. There's a whole website that's out there that basically says, hey, I'm building a Swift application. Here's a cursor rules file for Swift. And it's like the latest version of Swift. Make sure you do this. I've actually been building them out as I've been working on these Swift applications. Every
can you
time
really dump the whole doc set? What if it's 100 pages of docs?
the hell yeah, baby, use Flash. Gemini Flash 2.0 apparently is going to be able to consume all of it. The documentation, though, if you think about like the documentation between this old version and this new version, the migration documents are usually not that thick, right? I mean,
For something
maybe,
like Swift, that makes sense. But for, and maybe it makes sense for something like, Vercel or Expo. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely this issue where I think a lot of people think that AI is going to be great and it's going to write all their code for them. But like, they're also, you get to the point where you're like us, which we use all the best in breed stuff. And those people are constantly coming out with new versions, and the AI models just aren't ready and aren't as up to date on that. Think about that. That's got to be the same in the medical field, right?
Look at this. Look at this shit. So I'm so skeptical. Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
I'm so skeptical of this shit, Brandon. Like, okay, so this might not be the best example. Blow it up. All right.
Can you increase that for my shitty ass vision?
Oh my God, you can't see that, you old.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, so
hey, you dickhead.
Okay, so I agree with what Sean was saying. It'd be nice if I could embed documentation and because we use Directus and Swift, they all have really good docs, right? What would be really nice is if you could just, and maybe you can do this and I'm just ignorant to that, but just embed the docs and then you could make your rule sets or whatever. But this kind of stuff I am so skeptical of. Where does it say you will always use the latest version of Swift UI in Swift?
Yeah. So that's bullshit. That's stupid. There's it has no fucking concept of what the latest version of Swift is.
Yeah,
so that's stupid.
I see that shit on LinkedIn all the time, where it's people are like,
oh, don't make things up.
Does adding to a prompt, does adding a layer on top of a prompt, that's not the same as training a model on that data, right?
No, yeah, it's not like you're trying to do a reinforced learning model based on this thing. So, but again, the key, so for me, when I first started, it was with Svelte 5, right? All the AI models are trained on Svelte 4. Svelte 5 was a pretty dramatic shift. So I pretty much just ended up going and taking the migration documents from 4 to 5, making that copy and paste that into the cursor rules, and that's fine. The other thing that you can do, so here's a very important thing, is as you're going through, you're going to find you get these weird bugs in cursor. Mm-hmm. What I want you to do is when you copy and you paste the bug, you paste the error log into cursor, I want you to say, I want you to actually think through why the fuck this happened. And if it's something that's worthy to remember, go update the cursor rules file.
Will it
do it? Oh, yeah. So then it will go and be like, oh, shit, yeah, this is actually something that I'm going to do over and over and over again. And there's, different ways of dealing. I decided to try to build a game, right, with Svelte, and all these vector ways that you interact between 17 and 18 are totally different. And so then it kind of slowly started building, and my cursor file got pretty big of here's all the things that are relevant to this specific product. Because a cursor file or cursor rules file for a game would be different than an app, right? Because you're using Scene Kit in here, and you're using all the different kits.
So where's the cursor rules? I'm sharing my screen in my current.
You actually, so you create the cursor rules file exactly like you would a git ignore. So it's just a dot cursor rules, and anything that's in that dot cursor rules will automatically get added to the context every time that you're chatting with it. So it just automatically injects straight into it, and that's basically, hey, this is my application. So what my cursor rules end up looking like, here's my directory structure, here's the things that I want, here's high level requirements. It should. And if not, then sometimes, if it's not behaving, sometimes I'll even pull that damn cursor rules file into my context. The other thing that I'll do a lot now too is I'll include markdown files for every feature. And I'll go through and I'll write out this feature is supposed to do this. Because that thing loses its fucking mind every once in a while and just rewrites complete functional requirements that we have spent 2 hours working on.
By the way, I've been trying to get this. I'm building a native app without writing any code, and cannot get cursor to take photos in the right aspect ratio. So So this is my code, right? And it's just React Native project. But basically, for those who've never seen Cursor, you ask it questions and then it'll give you answers, and it'll actually go through your file and suggest exactly what it wants to change. And you can just accept it line by line, or you can accept all of it, or you can reject it. I know we've never demoed that, but
are you guys doing, has anybody done Windsurfer?
I have not.
I saw someone recommend that the other day.
I'm gonna try to play around with it this weekend just to see, because I hear a lot of people talking about it.
But this app that I'm building is 100% a situation where, and I think you have to recognize that as a developer, like Cursor's not going to answer this problem. It doesn't have enough information. Like this, there's not enough training on it. Not many people have asked that question. It's a very platform specific plug-in question, and it just doesn't have the answer. And I think maybe that's where you go ask a couple different models, or just go to the docs and read it yourself.
It's fun to write it yourself, bitch.
Did you guys see my meme that I sent you yesterday? Let me pull that shit up. I thought it was hilarious.
Great.
Also, I just saw that Google Flash 2.0 is benchmarking slightly better, just slightly, but slightly better than Claude Sonnet 3.5. So
I'm gonna try. So I'm gonna take the next week.
Yeah.
I'm gonna switch Cursor to Gemini.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm gonna try it.
See how it works.
Yeah, give it a try. So you're not gonna be able to see this. Let's see if it'll focus in. But basically, someone was like, and I've actually said something very similar. So I'm an idiot. Sometimes in the process of writing a good enough prompt for ChatGPT, I end up solving my own problem, even without even needing to submit it. And the AI folks have now discovered thinking shit.
I think it's important. Okay, we all want to one-shot apps. We all want to do this. We all want to do that. But at the end of the day, it's probably a better use of your time to have AI do as many ubiquitous tasks, project setup, initial code, getting your functions, getting all your stuff. And when you get super stuck on a very specific like plugin configuration or something that, unless you're Brandon and you just want to yell on LinkedIn and say fuck a lot, go and look it up yourself, go. Because at the end of the day,
it's a point. I'm making a point.
I know your point has been made though, and I feel like we just need to move on. But I mean, I think one-shotting these apps is totally possible. But a lot of those situations you need to be doing something that is, it's a widely used API. It's a widely used thing. What the more niche it gets, or the more new it gets, the harder it's going to have. Building stuff for you and doing all your work for you.
And again, that's why these replets and platforms that have all these modules are going to do pretty well, because it's very fixed and they can fine tune those models to work really well with their components. You still need to understand how to build them. You still need to understand like what you're doing, but it's better than like just random ass React code, right? Because it's so open ended. Like the way we build apps is just, it takes an immense amount of creativity and experience. And I think we're moving towards a future where, maybe there's a little less creativity. They remove some of those variables.
All right. So I'm going to drop a name here real quick before we wrap this thing up. And so this is Lord Astor West. And so this is a girl that I've now been interacting with online on LinkedIn quite a bit. She is the CEO of a company called Rad Hash. And I think I'm still really trying to wrap my head around what she's building here. But this is it's basically a framework for startups to basically be able to build all of these platforms using AI. But what they've done is that they've actually, like, from what I understand, I've been asking for and so this is my plea for her, give me a frigging demo of this damn thing so I can actually talk about it intelligently. That it seems like what she's decided to do is that we're going to go train AI models on very specific applications or functionality or frameworks that exist. And then when you go and you want to build your tools, you're just working within those existing frameworks.
I love that
so
idea.
Instead of just saying boiling the fucking ocean, here's a handful of frameworks that you need. You need auth, you need database, you need this, you need that, you need that. I think that that's a really interesting model. She's actually going and hitting hard. She's an awesome one to follow because you can tell she's hungry. She's out there. She's really loud, and she's like trying to raise money for it.
Right.
So she's a very fun.
Also right, because the least variance you can create in this ecosystem, the better. Because it's not going to hallucinate some random thing. It's not going to send you off on a wild goose chase.
I still think templates, but templates plus that, Brandon. Because think about this: like when we're building something, we make decisions all the time of like, okay, let's think of like authorization and permissions and roles and all that at first. So you could build a very complicated system for that, but your app probably doesn't need it right away. So what do? You reach for something that's a little simpler because it's easier to implement, right? And then down the road, if you wanted to switch, it's a big pain in the ass and you're never going to do it. You're going to have to rebuild it or burn it to the ground. Like with something like that, like to your point, Sean, like you could use a more sophisticated system and implement it in a simpler way. So, and then build on top of that later on. The reason you don't use it in the beginning is because there's too big of a barrier to entry to use that system. But if that's the one they chose, or you could replace authorization with anything, right? Like, and maybe there's not one solution for all, and maybe there's flavors of each, but that to me is very attractive.
Yeah. So, Lord Aster, give me a demo of the damn thing. Come on now.
I'll see
Lord
that.
Aster, we're coming for you. Maybe you can be a guest in our podcast and we'll do another remote.
That'd be awesome.
So, well, thanks for sticking with us. We appreciate your patience as we get through our move.
See y'all.
Awesome. All right, guys.